Hi, class. My name's Sam Scoville. I'm really looking forward to working with you all over the next 5 weeks. During this course, we're going to cover a variety of sociological topics. So, starting with what sociology actually is, how we think about sociology, and how we can use it in our everyday lives. Then we'll be doing a week on class reproduction and inequality. So, thinking about how people's different economic positions matter and how they're reproduced and created in society. We'll spend a week on the social construction of race, how we think about race, how people define it and categorize people into it, and sort of the history behind that. Then we'll be doing a week on the social construction of gender, where we'll talk about more traditional, or what I would call essentialist, ideas about gender are, and then what more socially constructed ideas of gender are, and how we can think about breaking down of gender categories. And then the final week, we will be discussing ableism and ability, and so how we think about people's bodies and their mental health and mental intelligence and all of these different types of ability related topics, to think about how disability reinforces particular ideas about bodies and what people can do and should do. So again, my name is Sam Scoville. I use pronouns like they, them, theirs. So for some of you, I know that this will be the first time that you're asked what your pronouns are and to introduce them to the class. That's part of the first week's discussion. So pronouns are what you want your name to be replaced with in a sentence. So for example, if you were talking to one of your friends about the class that you're taking with me, you might be discussing these lecture videos and you would say, "My instructor Sam recorded lecture videos for us to watch throughout the semester. They hoped that these videos would provide a way to connect with their students throughout the course." So pronouns might be he, she, his, or she, her, hers, or in my case, they, them, theirs. There's also a number of other gender neutral pronouns. I've included in one of the links on our page a resource that sort of goes over different pronouns and how to use them. If you have questions about this, feel free to ask me. This is really important to me as part of creating a safe space for my students online and offline. I'm Safe Zone trained through the LGBTQ Resource Center at the University of Arizona. So if you ever need to talk, feel free to come to me. I want this to be a really inclusive classroom for all of my students to really feel comfortable doing the work that we're doing and thinking about difficult topics like gender and other identity markers. So I'm currently a graduate student in the School of Sociology in the PhD program at University of Arizona. I'm actually currently not in Tucson. I'm spending the summer on the East Coast in Massachusetts, working on some research that I'm doing, and also volunteering with a youth organization. I do youth work with young people ages 14 to 22. So my research interests in sociology are in broadly social movements and collective behavior, gender, identity and identity formation, young people, so typically ages 15 to 25, in that range, and then also largely political participation. So current research projects that I'm working on include my master's paper, which I just wrote, and that looks at how different types of news media consumption impacts how young people ages 15 to 25 engage in politics. So, for example, if people are consuming traditional news media, so things like what you would turn on the TV, it doesn't really matter like what channel it is, but Fox News or MSNBC or ABC or CNN, I think that it probably does matter which one you're watching, but my project doesn't look specifically at news organization companies. It just looks at type of news. So I categorize that all as sort of traditional news. I would also categorize traditional news as like the New York Times or the Boston Globe or Washington Post, any of these big newspapers. And so I look at how traditional news makes people more likely to vote, for example, rather than engage in extra institutional projects like activism. That's not a traditional form of political participation. And then this summer, I'm collecting data and through interviews, talking to youth workers at a youth empowerment organization about how their identity matters for the work that they do, and how they think about their jobs. It's going to hopefully turn into a larger project where I'm also going to be talking to young people themselves about their identities, but that's kind of further down the line. So I'm originally from Massachusetts. That's kind of why I have so many connections here and I'm able to do my work here. Kind of using some of my networks to get resources and to get access to interesting populations to study and to work with. And so I attended undergrad here in Massachusetts at Smith College, where I majored in sociology and minored in government. I actually declared an engineering major and took my first introductory to sociology course, and it made me want to be a sociology major. I had a wonderful professor. She was super interesting. And I had never thought that this was a thing that I could do. And I was like, wow, I can study societies and how people function. And that seemed just like a natural fit for me. And I don't expect you all to become majors, but hopefully this class might inspire you to do so, or just give you tools to think critically about our social world and to apply them to your everyday life, because I think that these skills are important when it comes to things like in being engaged in your communities, in different institutions such as your jobs or your schools, or largely like in the nation. So through your political participation, I think that having this sort of critical sociological thinking is really important for that. So what do I do other than school? I played rugby for 6 years. I started as an undergrad, and then I moved out to Arizona. I was playing a little bit in Tucson and then ended up helping coach for a little while. But I decided that it was time to take a step back and just kind of retire because of the time commitment. I don't play anymore because of injuries and concussions. So now in my free time, I enjoy doing yoga, a little bit more low impact than rugby. I take classes at Tucson Yoga. I go hiking. Some of my favorite trails include the Douglas Spring Trail in Saguaro East. And I also love to cook. I have a cat named Artemis, and she'll probably make guest appearances in the videos throughout the semester. She doesn't have much of an understanding of personal space, so unless I lock her in a room, she might try to come in and say hi to y'all. So for the class, we'll just kind of move into a little bit of an overview. You'll be able to find all these resources on your syllabi and throughout the D2L page, but just a little bit of face-to-face overview of what I am thinking about how I'm thinking about the course and what I'm hoping you get out of the course. So there are these two overarching frameworks and kind of how we think about the topics that we're going to cover this semester, and they're the essentialist perspective and like the social constructionist perspective. So the social constructionist perspective is the sociological perspective. So it's essentially that inequalities like race and class are these socially constructed groups and identities and categories that are made up by individuals and like people who have essentially power in societies as a way to create differences. And in some cases, some theories might say that that's to create a hierarchy so that certain groups can maintain power. Others will say that that's functionalist, so that those categories matter so that society can function. And then, so the essentialist perspective is what sociology questions and pushes back on, and that argues that there are fundamental and natural differences between people. So there are natural differences between races, or there are natural differences between men and women, and that's just essentially how things are, and we just have to accept them. So sociology pushes back on this and says, hey, wait, but actually we've created these categories, we name them, and they're situated in particular moments in history and in particular cultural contexts. So that's largely what we've been doing throughout the semester, is taking these essentialist notions that we have and that we've been using to navigate the world and sort of push back on them and question them. So throughout the 5 weeks, we'll be learning about sort of the ways that essentialism is not really scientifically supported by research, and that in fact sociological research, which is social science, can actually explain a lot of the ways in which people construct society and social identities and categories. So the major assignments for this course will be the 2 weekly discussion posts, the one that's going to be an open discussion, and then the second that will be a meme discussion. You'll have 2 open note take-home exams, and then you'll have a short sociology and action paper. The 2 assignments that I'm most excited about are the meme discussions as well as the paper. I'm really interested in memes. I tend to do a lot of research and have a lot of interest in how politics and activism work online and how internet and societies are forming and changing, and how in real life things might be different than online, but what does that really mean? So I spend a lot of time thinking about phenomenon online. So I thought that using meme as sort of this type of like internet society and culture, we can think about the issues that we're talking about in class, and give you all a chance to get creative about how you think about just things in your everyday life that you might not otherwise think about sociologically. You might just like memes for entertainment. You might not like memes at all, but we'll have some interesting discussions exploring what they mean. And then the sociology and action paper is going to be your chance to use your sociological imagination to think about a social or political topic that matters to you and that you spend time thinking about. I think that it'll give you a chance to really get creative about your thinking, and maybe take on something that you might not have otherwise thought critically about to apply sociological topics to it. And I'm giving you all leeway in that you get to pick which week you want to do, and then let me know what it is. Let me know what your idea for the topic is, and go for it. I'm going to have to approve the topics because I want to make sure that you all are successful on this. So I want to make sure that it's a proper sociological topic and that you're really thinking through it fully. So that I think will be hopefully a fun assignment for you all, because you have some creative open space to interpret it how you want and to like use topics that you want, but also will be a good way for me to see that you're getting this critical thinking out of the class that I think is so important. So like I said, I'm going to be on the East Coast conducting my field work and volunteering with a youth organization for the summer. So I will be on East Coast time. All assignments are due in Tucson, Arizona time. And that's clear on D2L, on the syllabus. I'm happy to have phone meetings or Skype meetings with you all. I will respond to emails within 24 hours. If your email and your question is answerable on the syllabus, I won't respond to the email as quickly. It won't be a priority email for me because your first resource is always going to be your syllabus. So be sure you're looking there before you ask me a question if that question is already answered and laid out for you there or somewhere else on the D2L page. I'm really looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you, to hear about your experiences at university so far, what you hope to get out of this class. Feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns, and I hope you all are having a good first week.